So without further ado, welcome Dr. Harriet, and thank you so much for being here. During today's chat, we're looking at how to establish healthy sleep routines and behaviours and what happens when we don't. But before we get on to some of those questions, Dr. Harriet, can you tell us a little bit about why you became interested in children's sleep?
Thanks, Sharon. Look, it began a long time ago when I was doing my paediatric health training. So you do 6 years to be a general doctor, a year in what we call an internship, and that I was working in an adult hospital. And I looked around at everyone and I thought, oh my God, everyone is so old, because I was about 20 at the time. And I thought, I just have to go to the other end of life and start with children and really trying to ensure that kids get the best possible start to life. And so I did paediatric training, which is another 6 years. But during my last 3 years of that, I really thought I wanted to get into research. And I was lucky enough to have a fabulous mentor and supervisor. And she said to me, look, sleep problems in babies, postnatal depression in mums, we know there's a clear link, but we don't think anyone's looked at if we treat sleep problems in babies, can we improve postnatal depression symptoms in mums? So that was my first taste of research and my first trial that led to my doctorate. And it just went from there because I could really see we could do something in a fairly brief amount of time and make a real difference to families.
Well, with 290 peer-reviewed papers under your belt, I'd say that you've been pretty busy with your research. Fantastic. And it's work that translates straight into helping parents at those critical phases of life. And sleep is very challenging with babies, but not just babies, it goes on, right?
That's right, Sharon. And I always say to parents that the goalpost shifts. So you start off with a baby, and if you're lucky, you've got a baby who maybe doesn't cry that much and sleeps pretty well and feeds pretty well. But sometimes you don't, and it all depends on the baby's temperament and other things. And then you think you've sorted that out, and then they become a toddler or a preschooler or a primary school age kid, and the goalpost just keeps shifting on you as a parent. So I think the nature of the sleep problems and therefore our responses change as they grow up.
And I totally love the way you use the word lucky.
Yes.
Because I think so many parents feel guilty when there's things that aren't quite right with any aspect of their children's development or health. And often it's nothing to do with what they have or haven't done. And especially, but sleep advice, if we focus on sleep, we know sleep advice is abundant, especially on social media. But who do parents believe? How do they know what to do? So why don't we start with this question? How do parents help children into healthy routines? Because it's not always easy, is it?
No, exactly, Sharon. And I think the first step is to sit down, if there's two parents in the family, and say, what do we want to do? And do we agree on what a healthy routine is? Because it's very difficult if there's different parenting styles and one parent is saying, I want them in bed by 7 o'clock and we've got this routine beforehand. And the other parent's saying, no, let them stay up till whenever they want to stay up and they can go to bed at midnight. So consistency does really help kids understand what their parents want of them and how to set things up. And then I often tell parents that you don't have to do things by the clock, but it is good to have a sort of routine whereby the order of things is similar every night and therefore familiar and reassuring to their child. So it might be, that you have dinner, you have a bath, you get into your pajamas, you brush your teeth, then you read a book. And that doesn't have to be by the clock, but if it's in the same order every night, then your child knows that's what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. I feel safe. I feel secure because I have that sort of familiarity to my routine.
And the routine might be different in different families, right?
Definitely. Absolutely. And it's got to fit your family, and there might be other kids that you're trying to juggle, babies, older kids, and managing all of that. So there's no one right routine. And I think that's the frustrating thing about social media, etc., that people are sort of pigeonholed or show these ideal, in inverted commas, ways of bringing up their kids. And really, kids just need to be loved. They need to be well fed, and they need people to engage with them and nurture them. But there's no, other than that, there's actually no one right way of parenting. So this is broad advice around the sleep routine and setting it up, which is helpful. But you're right, it'll look different from family to family.
And I love the way you were taking on the child's perspective. You know, you said the routines feel familiar and are reassuring. That is so, so important.
Yeah, and I think so, particularly in toddlers, Sharon. So in my clinical work, whenever I come across a family with a sleep issue, I'll obviously understand what it is, what they'd like to do, and then there's often more than one solution. So I will talk to the toddler or the preschooler. So do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And they'll pretty quickly tell me which solution they prefer. And then I will say, do you think you can give that a go over the next few nights? And if they say yes, then we're home and hosed. If they say no, then it's not going to happen. So it's really
so true.
about, and you might have to try, 2 or 3 or 4 months down the track. But it's really about getting that buy-in. It doesn't mean that they're completely dictating the situation, but they've got to buy into it before your sleep strategies will work.
Yes, and you're bringing up such another important point when working with little people, as I call them. And that is the buy-in. And I think that sometimes parents and children can lock horns for many different reasons. And having the third party, that person outside the family, because I think children are hardwired pretty much to please adults.
Yes.
And if it's not their parents at that particular moment, then certainly for an adult like yourself that they trust. So if they've built a trusting relationship with you in the clinic, then they really just want to do it.
100%, Sharon. And I often say to the parents, because the parents will sit back and go, oh my God, we've been saying this and we haven't been able to shift everything. And I say, don't worry, it's because I'm a third party. I'm outside the family dynamics. I'm not there every night. And they do want to please you. And we'll probably get onto this later, but I do always build rewards into any sleep plans, particularly in that 3 years and over, because they're starting to understand rewards and often will respond to them as well, at least for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, and on the point of age, I think people are very often surprised at how young kids are when they can agree and have some kind of agency over those decisions.
Yes, absolutely. And, depending on the child, and again, it comes down to their temperament somewhat, but a 2-year-old will often be able to say, yes, I'm going to do that, or no, I'm not, and clearly understand the strategies. And sometimes rather than just talking about them, I will actually set up a little bed with like a little teddy and say, well, this is you in bed and here's mum sitting next to you and this is what's going to happen. What do you think about that? And they'll pretty quickly indicate to me, that's okay, or that is not okay.
That's right.
So just role playing the sleep strategy with dolls or bears or something can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when we are looking at behaviour change, so generally parents will seek advice because behaviour isn't changing and it's become challenging in whatever way that is. But rewards are a critical part, especially initially. Tell us more about your thoughts on that.
Yes, look, I think rewards, and rewards are really when you reward a child for doing a behaviour that you desire or want. So they're not a bribe. So parents will often say to me, oh, aren't we just bribing the child? But that's a bribe is usually trying to get someone to do something that's the wrong thing or the naughty thing. So rewards, we're hardwired, as you said, to please and to enjoy rewards. That's adults as well as kids. But they tend to work well just when you're targeting one behaviour. And they tend to work well for the first couple of weeks. And then after that, the novelty may wear off. So we also tend to tailor the rewards to the child's age. So preschooler might like stamps or stickers. What I often do is after 4 stamps or stickers in a row, they get a lucky dip where you go to the $2 shop, nothing too expensive. You wrap it up, you put it in a bucket and they get to pick out one of those little lucky dips or surprises. But when I get to school age, some of the kids are going, I'm not interested in stamps or stickers anymore. And so we do a raffle ticket system and we say, okay, you get a raffle ticket in the morning for doing the particular behaviour that you want to change the night before. And then on Fridays, you can cash in those raffle tickets. They might be worth 50 cents each. And then you get to spend them the way you want to spend them. And that tends to work well, particularly with the older primary school kids.
And it doesn't have to be expensive.
No, avoid, yeah. And I think that's another thing. I think sometimes parents think they have to get the latest game or the latest massive toy, and it's really expensive. And kids don't actually need that or want that.
And it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, Sharon. And some kids, it's actually not the tangible thing. They might get to choose on Friday night what's for dessert or the film to watch. Spending time with us as parents is often a better reward than anything else.
Yes, doing things together. Like, where should we go for a bike ride on Saturday?
Exactly.
Or which swimming pool can we go to?
Exactly. Yes.
Doing things together. So rewards are super important. And I love the way you made that point, is it's not a bribe, because I hear that in my clinic as well all the time. Oh, that's bribing, I'm making... Well, no, it really is reward, because behavior change isn't always easy. It's not easy for us. And we're adults with executive function, which these little ones don't have.
No.
So what we're doing is providing a transitional tool to help them start to learn a new behavior. And then they will feel so good and so different with good sleep.
Yeah. And they also feel really proud of themselves. And that's something, with our books that, I'm sure we'll talk about with the KIP books, is we're really trying to empower the child to want to change.
Yes.
So that real bottom-up approach rather than the top-down approach of parenting.
Yes, and they can do it.
Yes.
Let's talk about the old bedtime pass puncher.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that one.
Yeah, so that's a book that we've written to accompany the strategy called the bedtime pass strategy. So this is a really common problem that sort of emerges around 3 to 4 years of age and can continue into, primary school years, where you try and put your kid to bed at the start of the night, and you've got a beautiful bedtime routine, and you shut the door or you leave them and say goodnight, and then they keep coming out of the bedroom. And they come out multiple times. I want to tell you something. I want to go to the bathroom. I want a drink. I want something to eat. And we call these curtain calls. So they keep coming out, and that can go on for an hour or 2 hours, and it's exhausting. And usually the parents start to get really angry about it. So the bedtime pass measure is where you make a bedtime pass with your child, and they can use it for one pass out at the start of the night. And so they can come out of the bedroom for one reason: to go to the bathroom, to have a hug, to tell you something. And then they hand that pass over to you as the parent, and that's it for the night. So it's a bit like a pass out at a nightclub. I tell parents, if you remember those days of going to nightclubs and you've got a pass out, it's a similar sort of approach. And then if they can stay in their room at the start of the night through to the next morning, then that's when they get their stamp or their sticker or their raffle ticket as the reward. So the book is called The Old Bedtime Pass Puncher, and it's about Kip, who's our little voice of the clinician, really. Kip is a purple pillow, but it's the voice of the clinician saying to the kids, it's okay, you don't need to come in and out of the bedroom all the time. If you do, just come out for one reason. You can hand over the pass, and then you can stay in bed for the rest of the night.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you get feedback from kids on the book when they read the book?
We do. We get feedback from parents and from kids, and kids love it. And for a lot of families, it's become part of their bedtime routine, is choosing one of the KIP books. There's 6 of them, and choosing one of them and reading it together, and really making the kids feel proud that they can do this. Whether there's, the bedtime pass puncher, as you were saying, or there's books about the camping out strategy, which has Dad joined the circus. There's books about being worried, going to sleep and worrying about stuff. So that's the beach in the bedroom book. So sort of some parents just mix up the books. Some parents choose the book for what they know the sleep issue is for their kid, and then they read that together and talk about the strategy and put together a plan. And it doesn't help every single kid, but it's certainly helped a lot of them.
It's a little bit like cognitive behavioural therapy for insomnia, but for kids, right?
Yes,
built around those principles. And I love that you're talking about how kids feel proud when they have that agency, you know, when
Yes.
they feel like they have a little bit of control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I've never thought of it that way, but it is cognitive behavioral therapy, a different guy, Sharon.
It absolutely is.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. And in
Hopefully
a
makes it
way
fun.
that kids can take on board, because
Yes.
they do learn a bit differently to adults. You know, they're much less cerebral.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the beach in the bedroom, tell me
Yes.
about that one.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful book about, a kid who's finding it really hard to go to sleep at the start of the night, because this is a time for children when the day is a bit quieter, things have been done at kinder, at school, and they go to bed and then everything starts coming into their heads and they start worrying about maybe something that a kid said to them or did, or something the teacher said, or something that's happened. So all those worry thoughts sort of crowd in. And the beach in the bedroom is to take them off to a beautiful beach where it's calm. There's a sandcastle turtle there. There's things going on and happening. And so it's a way of using that visual imagery and relaxation techniques that we know can work in older kids, but bringing it down to a younger age so they can use this as their way of letting those other thoughts go and replacing it with these calm and relaxing thoughts and helping them get to sleep in that way.
Imagine if we could all do that.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm at the beach now.
That's
Okay.
right. That's right. And again, it's
Oh.
fun. It's bringing in that visual imagery and relaxation. There's whales and, that he's getting wrapped up in a beautiful fluffy towel to get to sleep, and keeps making sure there's a warm sea breeze that's soft on your face, etc. So it's all those
All
things
those
we want in you.
sensory words that help kids go to that place. Yeah. This
Exactly.
is a skill for life. I mean,
Yes.
sleep is a
Yes.
skill for life, right?
Yes.
Being sleep fit is
Exactly.
really, really important. And the younger kids can start, the better. And I think this is where sometimes the advice for parents fails a little bit, because I do have parents telling me that, oh, they think their kids will grow out of it, or it's just the
Yeah.
way they are. I accept that, they're just
Yep.
a bad sleeper, but it
Yep.
doesn't have to be that way, right?
No, exactly, Sharon. I think that's really important. And I think, some children will grow out of their sleep problems, but certainly not all of them will. And I think, you get to the point of the parent where you go, enough's enough. I actually can't keep functioning. I'm a grumpy in the morning. I'm irritable. I can't focus or concentrate. And so I find families get to that point where they go, we can't keep functioning. It's not good for us. It's not good for our child. And that's when they're ready to do something about it. But I think just wishing and hoping that it's all going to go away, is not the best strategy, because there are good evidence-based approaches. And I'm sure you've had the same response. So many families go, I wish we'd done this earlier. It was, not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was much better than I thought it would be.
Yeah. But for some families, it does
Yes.
feel too hard because they are so busy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And maybe this is a good time to talk about what are those common things that get in the way of good routines. What makes it hard for families?
Yeah, look, I think that busyness in life, having multiple children, work demands or other caring demands placed on you. And for those families, I would say, can you pick a time? Can you look at your calendar? Is there school holidays coming up, or a time where you can take a bit of time off work and focus as a family on getting sleep right, getting your routines right, and whatever else it might be with your strategies? Or else just chunk it. So, for example, if you've got a child who will only go to sleep if you're there, and they wake up 3 or 4 times a night and you have to get out of bed and go back and sit with them, well, maybe just focus on the start of the night and get that right with, the bedtime, the camping out technique or the checking method. There's various methods. And say, for the first couple of weeks, if my kid comes in and sleeps in the bed with me overnight, that is fine. I'm just going to focus on the start of the night. And once you get the start of the night going well, that tends to flow into better resettling overnight, because we all wake up overnight. That's natural. But the problem for some kids is because they couldn't get to sleep by themselves at the start of the night, when they naturally wake up overnight, they can't get back to sleep again without that extra help, which is often a parent dependent.
Because the brain has learned those cues.
Exactly, Sharon. Yeah. And so that's, I think, you know, this sort of myth that we all sleep through the night is it's a myth. We all wake up as adults really briefly. Sometimes we adjust the doona or, you know, check we've got the pillow in place, and then we go back to sleep again. And I often talk to parents. Yeah, hopefully, exactly. But I often talk to parents about, you know, those cues, like, you know, do you go to sleep with a pillow under your head? Yes, I do. If I came into your bedroom during the deep sleep and took your pillow out, you wouldn't notice. But when you naturally came up into your light sleep, you would wake up completely and go, where's my pillow? And it's not until you find the pillow and put it back under your head that you would go back to sleep again. And your child's the same. If that's the problem, if they can't get to sleep at the start of the night without mum or dad there, they might get off to sleep if you're there, but sometime during the night, they're going to wake up and want you back there again. So tackling the start of the night is important.
But in terms of parents and supporting them, I love that you said the manageable steps. We have to give them steps that we know they can do. So we're setting them up for success, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Otherwise, it does feel too big.
Yes. And I think just breaking that down into steps, and for some parents, it's just getting that bedtime routine right is their first step. And I think that's, you know, that needs everyone on board in the family. So I remember families I've had where there might be shift work going on. So mum or dad come home at 8 p.m. at night and they haven't seen their kid all day or all week, and they want to play and they want to see them. But that's not the time to rev your kid up when they need to go to sleep. And so that's about saying, well, maybe that's on a weekend activity, or maybe you can be involved, but it's part of reading books in bed and being part of the wind down routine. So it is working out what's manageable for families and breaking it down into chunks of things to do.
Yeah. So has Dad joined the circus and marshmallow puffins? Tell us about those stories.
Yeah, so has Dad joined the circus? That relates to a technique called camping out. So this is a technique where children find it hard to go to sleep without mum or dad or someone there while they go to sleep. And there's one option for this issue is to go in and out of the bedroom as the parent, but for some kids, they really can't tolerate that, and for some parents as well, and they get very anxious and stressed if the parent's out of the room for even a minute. So camping out is a more gradual, gentle technique, usually over 2 or 3 weeks, where the parent puts a camp bed or a chair right next to their child's bed or cot. The first few nights, they might pat them off to sleep. The next few nights, they might sit there, not pat them, but just talk to them or quietly sing. And then they start to move their camp bed or chair away from the child's bed a foot every few nights and gradually out the door. So has Dad joined the circus is all about not being worried if your parent's starting to leave the bedroom. And, have they gone somewhere? Have they gone to the bottom of the seat? No, they're still in the house. Have they gone to Paris to eat croissants? No, they're still in the house. Has Dad gone to space? No, it's okay. He's still around. So it's empowering the child to say it's okay. Dad's slowly leaving the room or mum's slowly leaving the room, but they're still here. I'm safe. I'm secure. It's okay to go to sleep. So that's all about the camping out technique. The other book, The Marshmallow Puffins at the Window, is really about those nighttime fears, which are, again, really common in, preschoolers and school-age kids. They have great imaginations. They hear things at night. They worry about, monsters and things like that. And that's just more of a fun, reassuring story that's saying, don't worry, those noises you're hearing, it's nothing serious, nothing scary. Marshmallow puffins at the window. So trying to build on their imagination to turn that into something that's non-threatening, sort of reassuring, and it's not the really scary thing they might be thinking is making those noises.
But not too exciting, so they have to get up and look at
it. True.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And you mentioned there's another really great point that you were starting to talk about where over with the camping out, if I just go back to that just for a moment, where you said over a period of 2 to 3 weeks, which, if a routine is established, you'll see a big difference within with definitely within 4 weeks, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And, you know, if you have made a fantastic sleep environment, you've got these great routines, and they're really not working within 4 weeks, it doesn't mean you've tried and failed. It might mean you haven't got to the bottom of it yet.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's something else that might be triggering the sleep problem that we haven't discovered.
Exactly. And it's really interesting. So the camping out technique is an option often when we're talking about when the kid can't get to sleep by themselves. And the other technique we often use, which is a bit different, is the checking method. So the parents coming and going and just checking on their child. Love you very much, but it's sleep time. It's time to go to sleep. Good night. I'm just going out to do something. I'll be back in a bit. And when I describe the two techniques to parents, often they'll say that one will suit my child, but not the other one. But sometimes they can't make up their mind. And this is not evidence-based, Sharon. This is just my clinical experience. What I'll say is, when you leave the room, if your child cries, is it an angry cry or is it a really upset, anxious cry? And if it's anxious and upset, then I steer them towards that gentle camping out method, which takes a bit longer. But if it's I'm furious you've left, come back here, how dare you leave, then I say it's okay to do the checking method. Because sometimes actually being in the bedroom is more stimulating for the child, and they're not going to close their eyes while you're there. And actually you're better off out of the room and giving them a chance to go to sleep without you there.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
angry versus
The
the
anxious,
upset
the
cry.
upset cry, exactly. And look, that's not always clear, but often parents will say, he's definitely angry. That's
Yeah, and look, there's probably clues in kids' personalities and behaviors
yes,
during the daytime. So
yes,
if you tend to have one of these little people who just really likes to stamp their foot and get things
yes,
their way, maybe
yes,
you're quite familiar with that angry
yes,
sort of, so
yes,
you would know that, as opposed to that perhaps a bit more vulnerable to anxiety
yeah.
personalities. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And then parents will get worried if they're leaving the bedroom. Is that traumatizing? And, am I being too strict? And again, I think it's doing what feels right for you and your child. But I always give the analogy of how children do like to have some boundaries set for them. And if you just put your child in the middle of the ocean where they can't see the depth, they can't see land, that's terrifying. But if you put them into the pool and they can see the steps and see the side and see the boundaries, that's actually really safe and reassuring. And, we've used techniques in the past with the bedtime pass. If the child keeps coming out, I sometimes suggest to parents just put a safety gate across their door, which is more a psychological barrier than a physical barrier. And they'll come back and see me in a week and say, my kid now puts up the gate at bedtime because they feel safe and contained. And that becomes part of the routine for their kid.
Yes,
So
and this is another one of the hot topics of discussion amongst parents, isn't it? It's that whole thing around behaviour and how do you manage every unique child's behaviour.
Yes.
It's a really big topic, and there is lots of variation in opinion on that one.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, my experience clinically is that kids love boundaries because it does help them feel safe.
Exactly. And you can also give kids some choice, but it might just be one or two choices, not 3 or 4 or 5, which is overwhelming, or just an only choice. Exactly.
You decide.
That is too much for a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6-year-old. So I think it's not being scared.
They don't have the capacity to make those sort of judgments about life.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, here's a golden question. What happens when routines are not established?
Yeah, well, that really sets you up for difficulties with sleep, because what can happen then is your child may or may not go to sleep. They might stall, they might refuse. Then you can lead into big battles around bedtime. Then you can end up with them sleeping late in the morning and you're trying to get them out of bed to get them to kinder or get them to school, or you have to get to work. So not having a routine really sets you up for a difficult time with sleep and good quality sleep, both in terms of the amount of sleep and minimizing disruptions. So, it really is the 101 that we all start with, is setting up good bedtime routines. And that, as we said earlier, is just having a sequence of things that you do in the same order every night. It doesn't have to be by the clock, but it's just something that the child anticipates, and they just know that's coming, and that means bedtime, and that's really reassuring and calming for them.
Exactly. And there are some visual strategies that can even help with that, because you know how some kids are real visual learners?
Yes.
You can have something as simple as a sticky note with a little sort of toothbrush on there, and write, I brush my teeth, put the sticky note on.
Exactly.
Oh, I read my book, put the sticky note on. Oh, I kissed mummy and daddy, boom. And
exactly, Sharon. That's a fabulous way of doing it. And I think particularly for kids on the autism spectrum who have a lot of challenges with sleep, those visual cues can be really helpful for them. And also for them, I'll often say, rather than it's sleep time, because they get worried then if they haven't fallen asleep, it's time to go to bed, close your eyes and rest.
The language is so important, right?
The language is really important. Yes.
It sounds so simple, and yet getting the perfect words for some kids makes all the difference.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, this a lot of this great advice around routines, parents can do a lot of this on their own. And this is the wonderful thing about it, is once parents understand and have some tools that they can work with, like Sleep with Kip books, they can get started on that. But sometimes they really do need expert support, like someone like yourself or someone like your wonderfully sleep-trained maternal child health nurses. So, how would parents find the help they need?
Yeah, and look, I think that's still quite hard, Sharon. I mean, we do have, throughout Australia, maternal and child health nurses or child and family nurses, and some have had training in sleep, some less so. In most of our states, we do have wonderful early parenting centres who provide day programs around sleep and settling, and sometimes when things are a bit trickier, overnight programs, residential stays. There are some councils also, have settling programs as well. There's a whole proliferation of online sleep schools and supports, and I think you've got to be a little bit tricky there, because some of them do have a good evidence base and are well trained, but there's no sort of guarantee of that, because that sector's not policed or enforced in any way. So I think you need to just tread carefully and see if the advice fits with you and seems sensible. There's also the Raising Children Network, which is an evidence-based federal government-funded parenting website that has a lot of information about sleep and videos about that. And on our Sleep with Kip website, we've got strategies that you can download to, manage problems getting to sleep or staying asleep or being anxious or waking up too early in the morning. So there's those strategies as well. And also psychologists are often trained, and OTs are often trained in managing sleep in kids. And there's Find a Psychologist. There's a website you can search for a psychologist in your area who might manage sleep in children. And I think, Sharon, you'll probably tell me much better, there's a similar website for OTs in Australia.
I do not know that, actually.
No.
I need to find out, because I'm a speech pathologist, and we certainly that is not yet on the radar of speech pathologists enough. And I think allied health professionals have, at minimum, a very important role to play in helping parents recognise when sleep is interfering with daily life and development and learning and all of those important things. And then assisting parents to find the right help when they need it, to get to help direct them. Where are the resources? Where are the resources in your area? And we actually still need more psychs, especially with pediatric Yeah, in the pediatric area.
Yeah.
So, oh, look, I'm just loving this conversation so much. I think we've got so much wonderful information in here for parents. If there was one short phrase that you could tell every mum, every parent about sleep, what is it?
I would say, Sharon, be prepared for change. And I think, it circles back to the start of our conversation that sleep changes over time. The nature of sleep problems changes over time. And that's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't be harsh on yourself as a parent. But there is help out there. So also don't suffer along and think you can't do anything. Hop on those websites, the Sleep with Kip, the Raising Children Network website. The Sleep Health Foundation, which is from the Australasian Sleep Association, also has tip sheets and some videos for parents around common sleep issues and how to manage them. So don't suffer in silence. But I think really going right back to the beginning of things, be prepared for change.
Ah, fantastic. And that actually sets parents up for success, because just when they get it right, and then if it happens to, shift, which it's going to, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you haven't failed.
Yes. And parents, we need to help parents steer away from this constant guilt of, am I doing enough? Am I doing it right?
Exactly. And look, it's a bit trite, but one of my colleagues said, fail is first attempt in learning.
Yes.
And I think that's a really good thing to remember as well.
Yes. Well, look, thank you so much for your words of wisdom.
My pleasure.
Congratulations on your extraordinary achievements. You really are a powerhouse of works in pediatric sleep medicine. And so we've really gone into some detail about the importance of sleep routines and strategies to get routines going for the benefit of everyone in the family, especially the kids, of course, but the parents need sleep too. And the stories that can help Sleep with Kip. And you can use the code WELLSPOKEN at www.sleepwithkip.com/store. And that's where you'll find the books. They are fantastic. We learned from Dr. Harriet, it's best not to ignore sleep problems because they won't go away on their own, or it's not likely. And a little time invested up front can pay dividends once everyone is sleeping better. Now, the very last thing, I'm sorry, would you agree there are many faces to sleep problems to be explored?
Absolutely, Sharon.
So I would love at some point in your busy schedule to have another chat, because I think parents will have a lot of questions around autism, attention deficit hyperactivity
absolutely
disorder, and conditions like sleep disorder breathing that disrupt sleep.
No, very happy to, Sharon.
So thank you.
Very happy. Absolutely. No, and we've done trials in children with ADHD and in children with autism, and showing that these strategies work for a lot of them. You just have to tweak, as we were sort of discussing, for the children on the spectrum to make more visual, cues.
Get the words right, get the language right.
Yeah, exactly. And work to their rewards, which can be quite different, of what they care about. Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. I've enjoyed this so much, and I'm sure every parent that listens to this will get a lot out of it. Thank you.
Good.
Until next time.
Pleasure. Till next time. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.